Hello and welcome to Euromonitor International's podcast series. I'm Jessica, and today I'm joined by Caroline Bremner, Senior Industry Manager, to talk to you about one of our megatrends that is becoming increasingly relevant, but I just learned is not new. It's actually been around for a while. So first of all, can you tell us what exactly a megatrend is?
Hi, Jessica. Well, first of all, a megatrend is a fundamental shift in consumer behavior that is disrupting markets. And we expect it to have especially a long term impact across a wide range of consumer industries globally. So, such as, for example, premiumization or healthy living.
Okay, great. So today the megatrend that we're talking about is experience more. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how long it's been around?
Well, experience more is one of Euromonitor's core megatrends, and we've been watching this trend for at least 6 years. And we've defined it by where consumers are prioritizing experiences over things, where they want to engage directly with a brand or a service, and they expect in return an enhanced, unique interaction with that company. And actually, we thought, is this going to be transformed after the pandemic? And every year we see more and more interest in experiences. So, for example, in our latest consumer lifestyle survey for 2022, 76% of people say that they value IRL, so in real life experiences, whilst nearly half, so 50%, enjoy online experiences as well. So there is this sense that experiences are really important to people, and what the pandemic has done has really sped up and accelerated that digital experience.
Hmm. That's so interesting. Yeah, that like pull between doing it in person, but doing it online. And we've all gotten so used to online that it's like you can still have those experiences in both ways.
Yeah, but the problem that we're facing now, post pandemic, now that societies have opened up again, is that the consumers, as well as brands, are facing a perfect storm because we have inflation rising and surging. That's been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, which is leading to rising energy prices and food prices. And that all has an impact on consumers so that they have less disposable income for discretionary items such as hospitality or travel, etc. But that's against a backdrop of unprecedented pent up demand post pandemic now that societies have reopened. So the mega trend is definitely changing post pandemic. And our latest report shows that consumers are actually looking to experience more for less. And
Mm.
it's not just about money, it's not just about price, it's also about less frills, less gimmicks, not just the same old, cookie cut template. Sometimes it's about less, more refined choice, less filters, less barriers.
Oh, yeah, that definitely resonates with me. You were talking about inflation earlier, and as we all know, that's a really major challenge right now for both businesses and consumers. There's less money for people to spend, and everything is just so expensive. And it seems like that could really get in the way. It could be a really big barrier for people who are wanting to experience more for less.
So, since the beginning of this year, inflation has actually doubled globally. And so, spending on experiences is highly discretionary. And so, of course, consumers are spending more, but they're receiving less
Mhm.
due to these spiraling costs. And that's why the recent inflation surge globally is just so alarming to all brands dealing in the experiential, particularly if you're in hospitality, travel, leisure, or entertainment.
Mm.
And so what we see is that consumers are responding by looking for quality value products and services, whilst the brands are reining in their offer and their choice to focus on core lines. So they're sort of doubling down. but equally they're finding ways to appeal to consumers in terms of offering, greater flexibility in terms of payments, whether that's buy now, pay later, or subscription services.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Nadezhda recently on a podcast about the buy now, pay later being used by airlines right now to get people on flights. But as far as subscriptions for in-person experiences, what does that look like?
Well, throughout the research, we ask our analysts in country to come up with examples. And there was a really great one in Canada where Cineplex launched its Cine Club back in last August. And it's a first of its kind subscription program. And it's very affordable at $10 or 10 Canadian dollars a month. And that's really to entice people back into real life, back to the big screen, and away from the grasp of Netflix. And so, we know that inflation and the cost of living crisis is headline news all over the world. But it's not the only challenge or challenges out there. So, for example, in travel and hospitality, we have severe labor shortages, and that's causing a crunch at the airports, delays, cancellations, and a lot of misery for passengers and travelers. China still remains very inward because of its zero COVID policy. There's still enormous supply chain disruptions. There's an investment crunch, obviously, as inflation rises, and not forgetting, one of the most significant challenges that humanity faces in the climate emergency, and the need for a just transition to a net zero world.
Wow. Yeah, well, that just sounds like a whole list of things that could get in the way of people wanting these IRL experiences. So, given that all of these things are happening at the same time, where can consumers look to find their experience more for less?
Well, one particular area is really having a moment, and that's the metaverse. And it's increasingly becoming an important place for consumers to live their lives, experience new things in the virtual world. And so you've got this blending of gaming, technology, exclusive entertainment experiences, and shopping culture. Where many brands, and quite surprising number of brands, are exploring opportunities to engage with younger generations. But it equally is a way to find new revenue streams, create some really exciting marketing activations, and refresh their overall brand image and communication strategies.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the metaverse, and I know that fashion and luxury brands have been early adopters in that sphere, with experiences and fashion NFTs. Brands like Nike, Gucci, Balenciaga, they've all gotten in on that, and we talked about that in an in depth in an episode on fashion in the metaverse. These brands are looking for new ways to connect with their consumers, and like you said, in this like enhanced way that we've never seen before. But that's just fashion. Besides fashion, who else is playing in the metaverse experiences?
Well, it's really interesting to see pop stars are like highly active
Huh.
in the metaverse. And last August, Ariana Grande, the global superstar, headlined US's Fortnite's Rift Tour, which was a series of scheduled in game musical experiences. So, kind of following in the footsteps of Travis Scott the previous year.
Mm.
So, with Ariana, you know, players could travel with their friends and other fellow users, explore this virtual world, listen to songs paired with like these unique moments based on elements from the game.
Huh.
And she was also, appeared in the game as her, her own avatar. So that's one really interesting example. And then we also identified, for example, Nike, a fashion brand, obviously, sports and fashion. They created Nike Land, which is an online gaming platform, and they have that in Roblox. And so users of Roblox, including my daughter, obviously, will be able to dress their avatars up in Nike branded fashion. And, it's quite interesting. It's now like an investment as well for Nike because they recently bought a virtual sneaker company, And reports of these, virtual sneakers or trainers, as we call them in Europe, going for over
Oh
100K.
my
So,
gosh.
astronomical prices already. But I'm head of travel, and we're also seeing hospitality players getting in on that action. So the first hotel ever to open in the metaverse is Millennium and Copthorne's Social, and they have gone into Decentraland, and it's a going. They've created this virtual hotel. It's a hub where people can gather and experience what hospitality is like in the metaverse.
So you can go into the metaverse and wait in line to check in at the front desk.
That's right, you go to the lobby.
Oh, that's adorable. So that those are all things that are happening in the metaverse, and not everyone is quite there yet, including myself. I find it a little confusing, but maybe I'll get there. So what are some other ways that brands are using technologies to enhance experiences for people?
Well, we're seeing technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality are becoming much more commonplace. And this was taking place pre-pandemic as well. But it's quite surprising just how ingrained it is. And our latest lifestyle survey research shows that 80% of millennials are using this type of technology for gaming in 2022. But even for more sort of, non-gaming environments and functions, for example, virtual reality is being used to preview holiday destinations, whether that's like in the resort or at the hotel. And that seems to be the number one use case of virtual reality, where 44% of consumers globally have done this type of activity. So trying before they buy. So that's a, quite impressive numbers there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool that you could, like, go and, "Well, I wanna spend this much money on a vacation, but I'm not sure I'm gonna like the resort, so let me go see what I can, like, feel what it's like using VR." That's
Yeah,
amazing.
because it's a sort of, a high ticket item, isn't it? If you're buying like a flight and a hotel and
Well,
experiences.
especially now.
Yeah, exactly, with all the rising prices. So, yes, it's a really great way of, testing the waters before you jump in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then there's also other like technologies. We're seeing 3D printing being used to create climate-friendly products and experiences that have less impact on the environment, creating less waste. And this really helps to create an enhanced product 3.0. So it's not just it's not just the latest version of a product or service. It's also layering in and weaving in the next generation of technology. And our research sort of threw up this great example, which is Feel the Peel, which is a circular juice bar in Italy that uses the oranges and the peel of the oranges to make 3D printed cups. So, using the peel, so it creates this disposable bioplastic cup that the consumer then uses to drink their lovely, freshly squeezed juice, and then it's recycled.
Wow. I have to look that one up. I can't even imagine what that's like, but it's so cool. Like, so it's not just buying juice, it's this sustainable experience that you get to be a part of as a consumer. I love that. That you mentioned earlier that, experience more for less is not just about less money, it's about less filters and fewer barriers. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Definitely. There are several great examples from our new research about how brands are removing barriers, whether it's creating online platforms that are inclusive, for example, being highly accessible to girls, such as Zabato in South Korea, which is Asia's most popular metaverse platform. Over here in the UK, there is War Paint for Men that specializes in cosmetics for men. And it's about sort of breaking down barriers and stigma. And, the products are being sold in 80 countries. And their London outlet claims to be the world's first ever makeup store for men. offering a full range of products, virtual makeup, Q&As, in-store personalized products. And what's really nice as well, that they have like a strong CSR component, and so they're highly active in mental health support, raising money to prevent male suicide. So it's all about acceptance and inclusion.
Right, like, community seems to be kind of the through line here, is that it's not just about building an experience for one consumer, it's about building that community experience. So is that an important part of this trend?
Oh, definitely. This one of the key pillars of the experience more trend is lasting engagement, where brands are aiming to counteract the sort of the rise of brand disloyalty, by sort of encouraging and creating deeper relationships through these communities, whether that's in the real world or online for loyal fans. And what it does is sort of build this sense of belonging and of shared values. And some of these communities can often be born out of the need for a no frills, no gimmicks, and the need for simplicity and stripping everything back to the core. So, one of the examples that we have is Glossier, which offers simple, back to basics, community driven beauty products. And it's all lovely and it's Instagram ready packaging, but the origins of the product comes from the original blog and the internet community that grew out of that. And one thing that they've really benefited from is the sort of capturing real time data on its consumers, their responses. Do they like the products? Do they not? And so everything has grown really nicely and organically. And it's all come from this sense of community, which again builds and drives loyalty. And then I really love this example in the States where you have Obey Fitness, which is an on demand fitness platform. It's all sort of retro day glow, very 80s, appeals to those who just want to have a bit of fun when they're working out. And, despite its high entertainment value, because they're partnering with the likes of HBO and Sex and the City or Disney for Cruella kind of styled classes, the subscription itself is really affordable at $199 per year.
Oh, well, that sounds really fun. I have to check that out. I haven't heard of that one. So, despite all of the current challenges, it sounds like there's still a lot of room for brands to tap in on the potential of this need to experience more. If they take that less is more approach of stripping things down and making things more affordable for their consumers.
Well, I think, 2.5 years into the pandemic, there's huge pent up demand that's being unleashed, especially where there are countries with very high rates of vaccination. And so that they've, eased the restrictions. And in some countries, they've even removed the restrictions altogether. However, we do have this challenge of skyrocketing inflation, the fact that household budgets are coming under increasing pressures due to rising prices in energy and food. So the less is more mantra is really resonating with consumers. So the people are learning to live with less, they have less money, but they also don't want to give up the quality. So it's not about poor quality for less money.
Mm.
If anything, products and services are being stripped back to, focus on their core benefits and their core values. And equally, we have this challenge on the supply side that, the disruptions to supply chains means that there is less choice. So consumers often have to deal with that as well. Um, and what we are seeing is that technology plays a key role in elevating the product experience. So, layering in sort of digital storytelling, leveraging the next generation of technology, especially to meet those net zero targets that are so important. And another key element of it all is consumers are still looking for Insta-worthy moments, and obviously that was so popular pre-pandemic. But we are seeing that these communities is where the strong, long-lasting relationships will really emerge and post-pandemic, and it's all based on, as we saw with some of the examples, on shared values and inclusion.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. So, what is it that brands can do right now to meet this consumer need?
Well, the current inflationary pressures should not distract from the very laser sharp focus that brands should have on delivering high value experiences at a price point that protects brand equity. As we've seen, encouraging communities, um, encouraging creative borrowing through partnerships will, be a very important source and help spark innovation. Brands should continue to be bold in their actions, remove the gimmicks, let the products and services speak for themselves with a renewed focus on quality, values, and of course, integrity. And all that will help to protect margins in this very volatile and challenging environment. And of course, the time for doing the right thing is now, adopting climate friendly strategies whilst removing any barriers, and that will help foster true diversity and inclusion so that consumers can ultimately experience more for less.
I love that. I mean, there's so much work to be done around diversity and inclusion and climate change, and this practice of refocusing and reducing seems like an opportunity that brands really can't afford to miss. Listeners, be sure to check out our other podcasts if you'd like to learn more about some of the things that we've mentioned: the Fashion in the Metaverse podcast, inflation in airlines, sustainability, and many other topics. And make sure you give Caroline's Travel Leaders episodes a listen to learn more about current trends in the travel industry. And if you're interested in experiencing more about Experience More, you can find a link to more content in the description. Thank you again, Caroline, for talking with me today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm going to send you a picture of the juice bar.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
That sounds amazing. I definitely want to check that. It's an excuse to go to Italy, basically, is what I'm
Yes.